time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Brodge Ritchie, here on the Mass Steel Podcast.
This thing belongs to Mr. Roney, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring this damn thing back here next year, along with the Super Bowl. Here we go.
The game is over. The Pittsburgh Steelers did it the hard way.
With the 10th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan.
And welcome everybody to this primetime edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. Here with me, Charles Project Ritchie. As of got some good news and some bad news here for this edition. And right now, as it currently stands, the Pittsburgh Steelers now find themselves once again in the number 6 seed in the AFC wild card. As of right now, as a result of them defeating the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. But the biggest key thing I do want to point out, too, for the wild card tiebreaker that helped put them over the top is that so far the Steelers are perfect in AFC common games versus the Oakland Raiders, which they are ahead of. And the Steelers are 4-0 while the Raiders dropped to 3-1, losing to the New York Jets in ugly fashion in that one. 34-3. I definitely kind of predicted the Raiders would lose that game, as a lot of people would expect when you have West Coast team traveling East Coast or vice versa. I didn't expect it to be that bad, to be honest with you. And when I see it right there, you gotta get some help from an old friend and Le'Veon Bell, believe it or not. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, obviously he's not having the best performance this year. Since coming back to the league, but he hasn't been utilized properly, and we get that. But at the same time, too, in that contest where the Jets defeated the Raiders in that game, and you saw Le'Veon Bell, he had 12 rushes for 49 yards, averaging 4.1 yards a carry. Also caught for 5 catches for 59 yards. He had 9 touches for 75 yards. And, you also just had Sam Darnold come to life in this contest. The quarterback play, 315 yards passing by Sam Darnold, who finished, by the way, with 127.8 QB rating. So thanks to the Raiders losing and the Steelers taking care of business on the road in Cincinnati, as they have now beaten the Bengals, including the playoffs, 10 straight times going back to 2015. 10 in a row, 9 regular season victories in a row. And here we are. I just want to apologize to everyone for the late start here. Like I said, just been busy the last couple of weeks, and just had a lot of turnover going on right now. So I do apologize for any lack of inconsistency on my part, but I do appreciate everyone staying put, keeping tabs with me, and it was a pleasure welcoming everybody in at this point in time as we look at it. But the AFC race right now, let's be honest, especially for the wild card, the division is pretty much just about done. Any hopes of trying to get that? The Ravens' magic number now goes to 3 games to clinch the division. Remember, they already lost to the Browns, and they've already beaten the Steelers, and they've already beaten the Bengals, I want to say, at this point in time. But let's be honest. Right now, the Ravens, hardly anyone could touch this team. I don't care who you are. It's just not happening. They already swept the Bengals, just like the Steelers did, I believe. But you look at this Ravens team, I mean, what they are made of and how they're revolutionizing the quarterback position around Lamar Jackson, who obviously continues to be the biggest steal of the 2018 draft, which really put this team on the map big time. And a lot of people really expect this guy to be special for years to come in this division. I'm still holding my breath. He's looking great right now. Fantastic on his edition of his debut of Monday Night Football tonight against the LA Rams, which they destroyed them in like a Super Bowl score basically tonight. And boy, did they have their gas cooked. The Rams seem like their playoff hopes are just slowly fading out like a fading flamed up candle. I don't know if you guys ever watched the Power Rangers growing up and remember the episodes of Green Ranger Tommy. And when he came back as a good guy, and later on, there was episodes later on where they were trying to get rid of him and steal his powers. And I remember there was an episode where Jason the Red Ranger had to save the burning flame. He was too little too late. His powers ended up fading, and he ended up saving his powers, and he carried them with him. They were able to bring him back, but however, even when he did come back, it only lasted for such a short time, and it faded out quickly. That's kind of like how the Rams' playoffs hopes are right now. It's like a burning candle wick, and boy, did they just get embarrassed. I mean, beyond more than anyone could think of. It might be another Super Bowl team who's been in the Super Bowl not to be in the playoffs. And I remember that's been one of the common things late 90s, early 2000s, but it is definitely really looking really bad at this point in time. And like I said, I mean, the thing you got to look at, you got to pay attention to. I mean, this was a game you're hoping that the Ravens would have been able to lose. But anyway, here's the only thing you really got to hope for if you're a Steelers fan. And if you still have any possible hope in this division, because what comes up for the Baltimore Ravens following this, they got another NFC opponent against the 49ers. That's another common game they'll have in common. But then they got the Bills. So you're asking right now, if you could still somehow get to within one game, but the only problem is right now they are 7-0 in common games overall. And you're asking for the Ravens right now to lose to the Bills and the Jets. That's if you pull a game with them going to the final week of the season. Because that point in time, you got to think about it, is this. You got to hope that the Ravens could somehow get 2 losses within the division by the time they match up. They only got one more matchup outside the Steelers in the division, which is against the Browns. And that's going to be in Cleveland. And like I said, this season definitely rides down significantly on this game. This is going to be a key matchup down the stretch. I mean, I don't care how inconsistent the Browns were, how Baker Mayfield was, how he was with the fans, whatever. I will say this. I mean, at this point in time, the Browns have been railing off some incredible victories, and some teams are competing for the wild card. They've beaten the Bills. They've beaten the Steelers. And now got a chance to sweep them for the first time in a season since 1988. I know there's a lot of people who are still holding their breath and saying, well, they're still the same old Browns. You can't really buy in anything what they're saying. But guess what? You win this game against the Steelers this Sunday. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what everyone's paying attention to. This Browns team has waited a long time to be where they're at. I'll always say, I'll always take a guy like Baker Mayfield over Mason Rudolph. Period. That's why you have Duck Dynasty, Devlin Hodges, who came in and saved the day pretty much, arguably yesterday on the road in Cincy. Yeah, Mike Tomlin in the press conference saying he felt like they needed a spark. And they did. They absolutely did. I mean, they were at that point in time trailing 7-3 against a winless Bengals team. I mean, this is the fourth straight year the Steelers had to play the Bengals tight in Cincinnati. You cannot deny the fact right now that games are not going to come easy. They're going to come with a premium for Mike Tomlin coach-led teams. I mean, the Steelers, even against the Bengals, who they've beaten in Cincinnati, they now lead that all-time series 64-35. Won 65% of the time against them. And the last comfortable win I was referring to was back in December of 2015. They won that game by 13 points. I mean, let's fast forward to the other games where they beaten them in Cincinnati. I mean, you beat them by you beat them by an average of 8 points per game. With, as a matter of fact, 2 out of the last 4 games you beat by a field goal. I mean, 2 years ago when Brian Shazier had spinal contusion in Cincinnati Monday Night Football. And then, of course, before that, it was end of last season to close out the season where the Steelers still needed the Ravens to lose, even though they slipped up, let the division slip out of their hands. They were hoping for the Ravens to lose, and the Steelers, if they won and the Ravens won on the lose to the Browns, they will have had the AFC North division for the 3 straight years in a row, which obviously did not happen. Yeah, if you guys want to, feel free and jump in on the conversation. Number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. You can hit me up on social media, on Twitter, at Prodigy Richie, as well as the Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Twitter, you can follow at Men of Steel CJR. Instagram, which is streaming live right now, Men of Steel Nation. Of course, my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. As we get ready to move forward, a lot of things right now. The biggest thing that keeps getting better about this year, and like I said this to more than a couple of people. This is a team right now is playing desperation football. You would not see a defense play like this if Ben Roethlisberger was healthy. I'm not saying they didn't have the potential to make the takeaways they did, but like I said, let's give credit to where credit's due, and I still say Ben Roethlisberger. I said this time after time, and I will repeat it. If Ben Roethlisberger does not reassure Art Rooney, and then of course Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin, he still wants to try and give it a comeback since he's got 2 more years remaining on his deal. He wants to attempt to come back. They don't make that trade. they do not give up a first and a third round pick for Mika Fitzpatrick. They will probably wait until next year's draft to address the safety. I don't think they will have looked at a quarterback in the first round. Yeah, very little prospects available. And of course, with Tua Tagovailoa, too, by the way, whose NFL future right now going into the draft is kind of in doubt when he had the injury of his hip. I mean, who else is the other quarterback in college football you could say right now the Steelers could use? I think the good thing, like they say in the NFL, whenever you have two good quarterbacks, and I know Mason Rudolph, he's been starting off slow at times and has been having a hard time getting the ball out of his hand quicker, doing too many dropbacks, which has been the criticism right there. As a result, you start off slow in contests against games. And as a result, behind Mason Rudolph, when they do start off slow in contests, in that regard, they are 3-2. 4-2 for the year, but 3-2 with Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph, which, by the way, he has as a starter a 79.3 QB rating. He has completed 150 of his 244 passes, threw for 1,524 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. While Devin Hodges, his starts altogether, he has completed 15 of 20 passes, 132 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, an 88 QB rating rounded off. That's the biggest difference. But including all the games he came off the bench, Devlin Hodges, he has a 98 QB rating, while Mason Rudolph, including the time when he had to step in for Ben Roethlisberger in the Seattle game when he eventually got lost for the year the next day, he has overall got a QB rating of 80.3. That's the biggest difference. And I know a lot of people, the $1 million question right now is who's going to be your quarterback going in against the Cleveland Browns? A lot of people were hoping that Mason Rudolph was not going to have any ill effects from Myles Garrett, his situation with Myles Garrett and the Browns, and the slot performance they had, throwing for 4 picks in that game against the Browns. I mean, in that contest, he only had 1 touchdown. Yes, he outpassed Baker Mayfield in yardage, but it was just a horrible day at the office, and he got sacked 4 times for 43 yards. I'm telling you right now, against the Cleveland Browns, not only do you got to watch out for Nick Chubb, but now you got the return of Kareem Hunt. So which tells me, I think going into this game Sunday, which they flexed to a 12 o'clock game, I tell you what, that might the NFL, I believe, did them a favor by doing that. But by having that move to a 12 o'clock game, I really do believe what's going to end up happening. It's going to favor the Steelers in this regard, and in the fact that it's going to probably break up some momentum that the Browns are having. I mean, only for the simple fact that when the Browns did beat them, they beat them on the primetime stage on Thursday Night Football. Yes, the Browns did beat the Dolphins at home in Cleveland, and you already got a pair of good victories along the way. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, I think just to have it on a level playing field, you're having Myles Garrett, who's suspended for the rest of the year. You got Marquise Pouncey, who's going to miss 1 more game before he returns against the Arizona Cardinals. But this is the biggest game to date. And I got to be honest with you guys, ladies and gentlemen, the Browns do strike fear in me for some reason. I feel like they're playing a little bit with an edge right now. I really do. You racked up 3 straight victories against the Bills, Steelers, and of course, a mediocre Dolphins team. We all understand that. We all understand the situation will eventually led Mika Fitzpatrick to becoming a Steeler. Did not like the environment that the culture is being set by management. But you do got to realize this. This is a team right now. It's just whose season should have been done a long time ago. And the thing is, when you had Greg Williams, who was your coach about a year ago at this point in time, former New Orleans Saints Super Bowl defense coordinator champion, you made a hot run down the stretch, but a lot of people in the Browns organization, including John Dorsey, felt, excuse me, that Freddie Kitchens had a better connection with Baker Mayfield. For some reason, there was something clicking. I still believe it was Greg Williams, but at the same time, I tell you what, right now, Greg Williams has got an opportunity since, let's think about this for a second. And if I'm not mistaken, since Marty Schottenheimer, who, by the way, did it when he was coaching the Browns, let's see if I'm correct on that. Marty Schottenheimer, remember, he was a former Browns coach. Remember that he was Bill Cowher was one of his assistants too, as well as the time he played for in Cleveland. He coached the Browns up until 1988. So if the Browns are able to sweep the Steelers, he'll be the first coach since Marty Schottenheimer did in 1988 to sweep the Steelers. I don't like saying that, but guess what? We got to forget about this nonsense that they are still the same old Browns. Not. I'm telling you. I mean, yes, it's going to be looking like two completely different teams when these two face up and they lock up. I just don't feel that this is a team you got to overlook. And let's just say if they did sweep them, I'm not going to lie to you. I still have a little bit of doubt if they'll be able to hold on to this rest of the way. But I got to tell you, you beat the Steelers. This does a hell of a lot for your confidence going down the stretch. And it's like you're going to really start feeling you could beat anybody. If you're the Steelers, this is what you got to do. You got to do what the Browns did to the Steelers back on Thursday Night Football. You got to control that line of scrimmage somehow, some way. You cannot let the Browns dominate because they did, after all, have 4 sacks in that game and got 4 picks. It was just a nightmare of a day in that game. And I just really feel right now, I mean, the part that just really bothers me, like I said, their season is not done. It is not. The only good thing is that it is going to be at home in Heinz Field. And what's going to be happening with James Conner? I tell you what, I'd be okay if Benny Snell is still ready to roll. I love me some Benny Snell football. And then you also had, I think it was Karen White, I believe it was the other running back. But, man, I tell you, I mean, you guys that really need to step up. I'm looking for Benny Snell to be the grinder. If I'm looking down the stretch, I'm probably looking at him as my new back right now. I mean, Jalen Samuels, he's been another guy that's been inconsistent with this ball club. But let's find out. Let's see where the cards fall at this point. Now, speaking of the Steelers, let's real quick get into a couple of facts real quick that was pointed out here, beginning with reporter Missy Matthews, which, by the way, she can be followed on Twitter at Missy_Matthews. The Steelers are the only team in the NFL with 3 players that have recorded at least 6.5 sacks. That is outside linebackers T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree. T.J. Watt, who's got 11.5, he leads his team. Dupree has 7, and Cam Hayward has 6.5. And that is pretty impressive right there, because he even had PR for the Steelers, Director of Communications, Burt Long. He can be followed on Twitter at Steelers PR Burt. He's making the case for outside linebacker T.J. Watt for being Defense Player of the Year, and his credentials is that he's got 11.5 sacks, which leads the conference, 3rd in the NFL, 5 forced fumbles, which is tied for 1st in the league, 25 quarterback hits, 1st in the league, 3 fumble recoveries, tied third in the NFL, has at least a half sack in 8 consecutive games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. And I tell you what, a guy like TJ Watt, I hope he is okay for this Sunday's game. I definitely want him available. And I really believe having him available helps pressure on controlling the defensive line winning the line of scrimmage against the Browns offensive line. Because I tell you what, I don't remember, the Steelers in that contest when they last lost, to the Browns on Thursday Night Football. Let's think about it. In that contest, let's break down what happened in that game. Which, by the way, the Steelers did get embarrassed, that night by a lot of proportions. A lot of people are always remember the hit over the head by Myles Garrett over Rudolph. But the Steelers in that contest, they only got 1 sack. You got shut up by 3 sacks in the pass rush department. That cannot happen again. And then not only that, too, I will say this. One thing that really surprised me, Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens did a damn good job preparing for the Steelers' defense. They avoided Mika Fitzpatrick. Let's give credit to where credit's due here. He only had 2 total tackles in that game. No pass deflections, no picks. Okay, let's keep that in mind. This guy who, by the way, is leading his team in takeaways, which, by the way, when you look at it, for the Steelers club, and you look at what they're able to do on here. Mika Fitzpatrick, who, by the way, has 7 takeaways on the team, which is number 1. He's 1 ahead of Devin Bush, who's got 6. He's got to have a better game plan this time around. And I'll tell you what, another guy needs to have a better game is Joe Hayden. He's 12th in the league in passes defended. But at the same time, too, this guy has not gotten in on the fun of having picks. He's only got 1 pick for the year. I love me some Joe Hayden, a guy who he gave in a 2-year contract extension, which turned into a new 3-year deal. I remember Elbow Show always say that they don't do 2-year extensions. They just give him a new 3-year contract, basically, which happened. But he has got to step up for a guy in his 30s right now. I'm telling you, this is a forward team. Right now is the time to get balling. This is your forward ball club. You want to at least make the playoffs 2 out of your 3 years that you've been with this club so far. I remember around this time, late down the stretch, he got hit with a bogus pass interference call against the Saints. He has got to be vital for this game plan. I'm calling out Joe Hayden on defense. He has to get going, and we'll see where it goes from there. Again, the number is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. You can follow me on Twitter at Proj Richie, at Masteel CJR, Instagram and YouTube live streaming channels, which is Masteel Nation and Masteel Podcast. Now let's get ready to wrap up here real quickly. One more thing before we get going. Mike Tomlin, he didn't share his plans for who starts at quarterback next week versus Cleveland. But I'm going to probably have to go, if I'm thinking about it, and I'm hearing if you guys say there was a spark to the offense, I probably have to go with Duck Dynasty, Devlin Hodges. We shall see. I like the way Tomlin's approach is handling it. Obviously, he's still trying to mentor Mason Rudolph. And you don't want to give it away of a hot hand, but I think Tomlin's doing the right thing, seeing where he's at mentally. And he's even said it. I was hearing along the way prior to the start of yesterday's game, he was talking about some real-life stuff, even what happened after Myles Garrett. You can't let the public perception define who you are. One of the things. And remember, Mike Tomlin is a guy who always likes to pride himself on staring in the face of adversity. That's what they do. So I'm only got one top fair foul. I'm gonna end it. Devlin Hodges is the future quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward. Fair or foul topic number one. I definitely want to hear from you. I'm gonna probably have to say fair on that one. Because I tell you what, Rudolph right now, I'm not really so right now if he's going to be the future. Don't get me wrong, he could still improve. He's got time to do that. But the problem is his confidence and the way he can move around, but he's got to learn to get rid of the ball quicker. He's made some dangerous throws that nearly cost him. And take it from me, I'm a guy who's grew up in Chicago, born and raised, Bear Country, being a Steeler fan in Bearstown. And I'll give you guys a little tale. I'm sure a lot of you remember as football fans, but remember there was a guy named Josh McCown who was backing up Jay Cutler for the 2013 Chicago Bears. And I remember when Jay Cutler was hurt for a period of time, yeah, Josh McCown come in, help orchestrate a hot offense. Bears were in cruise control late down the stretch. But when Jay Cutler got healthy, even former soon-to-be Hall of Famer Brian Urlacher, who just retired, keep in mind, earlier that year in March, he was on record saying, if I'm the Bears, I don't care how much I respect Jay Cutler, I'm not getting in the way of a hot hand in Josh McCown. That's how the Steelers got to look at it right now with Devlin Hodges. I get it. You want to progress this guy. You don't want to give up on this guy too quick, who's gotten a high first-round grade in the draft. But again, I think Tomlin does want to prove, for all the controversy that you went through throughout the past, I mean, minus no Le'Veon Bell, no Antonio Brown, no Ben Roethlisberger, a lot of guys banged up. You know deep down inside he wants to get this team to the playoffs and possibly championship form. He wants control of this team. He wants to have the accountability restored, and we shall find out. And that, my friends, is going to do it for this edition of the Mass Steel Podcast. I'm going to try and be back on Wednesday. It'll probably be a later time. Once again, just pre-warn you, if it's not 6:30, it will be on at about 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, this is my number for the show, 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. This is a show for the fans. Definitely want to hear from you. Here's some comments, some feedback. Like, subscribe my YouTube channel if you wish. And continue to follow me on social media at your discretion. It's always a pleasure hosting you, Steeler Nation. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.